Hello viewers, this is Not Too Fast here. In today's video, I'll show you how to install an amplified subwoofer in a 3rd gen Nissan Rogue. Now this type of subwoofer system is very compact and it'll typically fit underneath your front seat. And this makes it perfect for those of you who want to maintain cargo space and at the same time have better bass response in your audio system. In this video, I'll show you how to run the power wire from the engine compartment into your vehicle and where to tap the audio signal for the amplifier. There are lots to cover in this video, so let's get started. So right here is the ATOTO CS101SW. There's a 150 watt RMS amplifier with a built-in 10-inch subwoofer. Let me open this up and I'll show you what comes with it. Right here is your user manual. There's a wiring harness with the power cable and the remote turn-on cable. Mounting hardware. Remote bass knob. Right here is a subwoofer amplifier unit. So let's have a closer look at this amplified subwoofer unit. As you can see, the 10-inch subwoofer is right here. This is a low-profile subwoofer. This grill you see here is metal. This entire enclosure is actually metal also. This is quite a heavy unit. This is very nice because you don't want a lot of vibration coming from the enclosure box. The overall size of this is quite compact. You might be able to fit this under your seat or put it in the trunk. The overall length is 13.5 inch. The width is about 10 inch. And the height is 2 3/4 inch. Let's have a look at the back. Behind this vent here, it looks like there's a passive radiator. So this, along with the 10-inch subwoofer together, will give you that low bass response. On each corner, there's a location for you to install the metal bracket. With these brackets, you can mount this onto the floor of your vehicle. So let's have a closer look on this panel here. Right here on the left side is the electronic bass control remote. I'm not exactly sure what this does, but we will check it out later on. Right here is a phase switch, 0 degrees or 180 degrees. There's a protection LED, power LED. There's a plug for the remote bass knob, low pass crossover adjustment, bass boost adjustment, gain control. There's a low level RCA input. Right here is a connector for the wiring harness. On the far right, this is the 20 amp fuse. Let's have a look at the wiring harness. Now you'll notice on the far right side, you have 2 black wire. These 2 wires are your ground. The 2 black wires will come out and get crimped to this ring terminal. So they're doubling up the wire to allow for more current flow into the amp. Next to the ground wire, you also have 2 red wires, and these 2 red wires also get crimped to this connector here. But you will notice these 2 red wires are bigger gauge than these 2 black ground wires. So I wish they did use heavier gauge wire for these 2 ground wires. To the left of it, you have the green wire and the purple wire. The 2 green wires are for the high level speaker input for the left channel. The 2 purple wires are for the high level speaker input for the right channel. And then you also have this blue wire, which is the remote turn-on wire. Once you have these all connected, you can plug this connector into the amp. Right here is the remote bass knob wire. It has this RJ connector. You connect this into the remote in. And then on the other side, you'll plug the RJ connector into the bass control. Right here is the included power wire that they provided. On one end, you have this connector that plugs into here. And then you connect the other end of this wire to the positive terminal of the car battery. Now I'm not going to be using this wire. Instead I'll be running my own 8-gauge wire that you see right here. The main reason I want to run my own wire is because in the future, if I ever want to upgrade the subwoofer system and the new amplifier requires more current, I'll have this in place, which can handle higher current draw, and I don't have to rerun the power wire. One quick note is if you're doing any audio install in your vehicle and you're going to be running any type of wiring like power wire, ground wire, make sure you do not buy any wires that's called CCA or copper clad aluminum wire. Aluminum is not a good conductor and it cannot handle a lot of current. So make sure you only buy wire that is pure copper and not CCA. Now with a high level speaker input, it has the left channel and the right channel. For this install, I will only be connecting to the right speaker in the vehicle. The reason it'll still work is because for the bass response, bass will come out on both the left and right channel. So even if I only take it from one side, there will still be low frequency coming out on one side. Also, it will make the installation a lot easier because I don't have to tap the left speaker and the right speaker and run it back to this amp. Now on this harness, you see there's a connector at the end here. I'm going to go ahead and cut the wire that I need. I just want to show you an extra step that I took. You don't have to do this. I unpinned the 2 ground wires and soldered my own wire onto it. These wires are much more thicker than the original one that was on here. So let's go over to the vehicle. I'll show you how I will run the power cable on the 23 Nissan Rogue, and also where I'll install this Amplifier subwoofer unit in the vehicle. Now with that subwoofer, it has a very slim design, and you might be able to fit underneath the front seats. On my Nissan Rogue, on the driver's side, I already have a dash cam battery that you see right here. So I'm not going to put it on the driver's side. Instead, I'll fit it underneath the front passenger seat. And I can slide this underneath the front seat. With the amp installed underneath the seat, there's no problem with the seat moving back and forth. Now when it comes to finding an access hole through the firewall from the engine bay into the car, you only have a couple of options. On most vehicles, on the driver's side, there's a big grommet with a factory wiring bundle that goes through the firewall. And on this vehicle, it's located behind this battery you see right here. And if you look at that grommet, it has a thick rubber on the outside and on the inside. That makes it very difficult for you to cut open and feed the wire through. The next option is to look for a blank grommet somewhere on the firewall, but with most Nissan vehicles, you're not going to find one. The third option is to feed the wire through the hood release latch grommet, and this is the route I'll take on this vehicle. And the hood release grommet is actually located outside on the fender right here. And if you're working on a different vehicle and all these options don't work, you need to drill a hole through the firewall. If you think that's too drastic, when you take it to a car stereo shop to do an install, this is exactly what they will do if they cannot find an access hole. Right here I'm installing my own 8-gauge power wire running from the car battery into the vehicle. I'm routing the power wire alongside the hood release cable. Now this hood release cable goes underneath the driver's side fender, and then it goes into the wheel well and up through a grommet into the vehicle. The grommet for the hood release cable is located on the firewall that's behind this fender liner. I'll point my camera towards the firewall and you'll be able to see the hood release grommet. Here you can see the grommet for the hood release cable. This is where you can get access into the car. So here I fished a long tie wrap into the vehicle and I taped the end of the power wire to the tie wrap. Now I'll pull this tie wrap into the car. Here's the other end of the long tie wrap that I fished into the vehicle through that hood release grommet. And right here is the power cable. And here's the wire fed through that hole. I will install my own grommet that you see right here. Now you can buy an assortment of different sizes of grommets like this kit right here. These grommets will prevent the wire from rubbing against the bare metal and possibly cutting in and causing a short. Here you can see I cut this grommet open. I'm going to slip this over my power wire and the hood release cable. Once I do that, I'll push this into the hole. And to show you what I did here is I pulled back on the original grommet for the hood latch release cable. So that's actually sitting outside. And then I installed my new grommet behind it. Also make sure you tuck the power wire behind this fender liner and it's not drooping, hitting the spring here. I ran the power wire way up high above the steering column and the gas pedal and the brake pedal so it won't get in the way. Now you're not going to be able to really see it. That's because the power wire is way up high. And then I ran that wire over to the passenger side. Now you also see a blue wire here next to the power wire. This is my remote turn on. I will connect it to ignition 12 volts. So whenever I start the car, the amp will turn on. And I'm doing this because I don't have a radio remote turn on wire that I can connect to. Right here is a power wire that I ran over to the passenger side. Now I just need to pull this wire through. Next I routed the power wire along the side. With this fuse holder, I'm going to mount it on this metal bracket that's next to the battery. I'm going to remove the 14mm bolt holding that bracket. Now drill a couple of holes and mount this fuse onto this bracket. Here the fuse is installed. So here I'm going to put this tubing over the power wire. Now if you have split loom, you can also use that. Next I'll connect the power wire to the fuse holder. From this fuse, I need to connect it to the positive terminal of the car battery. and I'll show you how to properly crimp a battery terminal lug on the 8-gauge wire. I'll place a wire right here. Now all you have to do is spin this. Now you can remove the insulation. Now you can insert this wire into the ring terminal. Now I'll place this ring terminal into the 8-gauge die. Press down the handle all the way. Now before I install this, I'm going to put a heat shrink on it. Now this time I'm going to connect the wire to the fuse, but not to the battery. I'll do that at the very end. On the front passenger side, remove the side step panel. Remove this kick panel. There's a plastic nut you need to remove. To get the high level audio signal that I need, I'll be tapping the front passenger speaker that you see right here. Now this speaker is wired to this wire loom that goes into the vehicle, and this wire bundle comes out behind this panel, and it's this bundle that you see right here. Now this wire bundle had this tape on it. I went ahead and removed this. So it's only this bundle that you want to look at, not the one above, okay? And the speaker wire is actually these two right here, the red and the white. Now just to confirm those wires I have there are the correct wires, I did go ahead and take off the door panel and I checked the continuity of the wire going to the speaker to the pair of wire that's over here. And I did verify they are the same wire even though the color is different. Now this front passenger door speaker has wire color, green and white. This is a 2 ohm speaker. This wire goes through this wiring bundle that you see right here. And when it goes to the frame of the car, there's a separate connector behind here that changes the wire color. Once it comes out over here, the pair of wire you're looking for is this red with silver dot and this white with silver dot. To tap onto these two wires, I'll be using T-tap that you see right here. So here I have a pair of wire that I'll be running this to the amplifier. The red wire is positive and the white wire is negative. So now I've tapped my own wire onto the existing factory wire. Next I'll retape this bundle of wire and clean it up. With a high-level speaker wire, I ran it along the side here, following the factory wire, and then I'm going to run it underneath the seat rail. Right here is the wiring harness. Now I'm going to connect all the wires I ran in the vehicle to this wiring harness. First I'll connect the power wire. Now with this connection I will use a crimp to crimp this on. Next I'll connect the remote wire. Now with this connection I will solder and heat shrink it. Now I should mention, if you're doing this install, you don't have to solder the connection. You can use butt connectors like these ones here and then crimp the wire to connect it. These butt connectors will still give you a very good solid connection. So it's really up to you which method you want to use. Next I'll connect the high level speaker wire to the pair of purple wire you see right here. When you're connecting this pair of wire, make sure you match a polarity. The negative wire on the speaker need to connect to a purple wire with a black line. This is the negative wire. If you don't match a polarity, then the subwoofer and your door speaker will be out of phase. So at this time, everything on this wiring harness is connected. I do not need to connect this green pair here. As I mentioned earlier, the low frequency for the bass will always come out on both left and right speaker. So for me to connect only the right channel, there's still going to be bass frequency going into the amp. I'm going to use some Tessa tape and tape this up. And here's what this harness looks like now. Now for the ground, I'm looking for a factory bolt I can use so I don't have to drill a new hole. And there is actually a grounding bolt way back underneath the carpet right here. It's really hard to get to, and there's also a bunch of factory wires that's already on it. So I'm not going to try that bolt. But if I look down on this side here, there are several bolts over here. I'll remove one of the bolt here, clean up the paint with a wire wheel, and then test it with a multimeter and make sure it's a good ground. Also clean off the paint on this bolt. I placed one of the probe on the ground of the cigarette lighter power plug. And you can see it's only measuring 1.5 ohm, so this is a good ground. The ground wire goes underneath the seat rail, and then I routed it along this factory harness. I tucked it behind this carpet, and right here is the ground wire with the ring terminal. Now I'll reinstall this ground bolt. Now I can reinstall the panels on the passenger side. Here I'll reinstall the side step panel. Don't forget you also need to run the wire for the bass knob. I'll run this wire along the side, next to the center console and up to the dash. With extra wire, I'll tuck it behind the panel. I routed the bass knob wire along the side here, and right here is where I mounted the bass knob using double-sided tape. In this location I can easily adjust the bass. Now I can connect the wiring harness to the amp. And also connect the bass knob wire. The last step is to connect the power wire to the battery. I'll install this terminal onto this bolt right here. I'll put a tie wrap on this wire. Now I'll reinstall this cover. So after testing this system out, I realized that EBC remote button is actually mislabeled. That's actually an auto power on function. Meaning if I turn this on by pushing this button in, this amp will monitor the high level speaker voltage, and when it senses an audio signal, the amp will turn on automatically. And if you use this auto power on function, you do not need to connect that remote wire that I ran earlier. And right now I have not connected that remote wire in the fuse box for the ignition 12 volt. Let me turn on the radio and you'll see this amp turn on automatically. So with the radio on, you can see the power LED on this amp is turned on. And when I turn off the radio, the amp will turn off automatically. I'll do that right now. And the amp is off. With the phase setting, leave it at 0 degrees. Next, we need to adjust the gain and the low pass crossover frequency. With the low pass crossover frequency, the adjustment is from 50 Hz all the way to 150 Hz. You really don't want the subwoofer to be producing any of the vocal frequencies in the music, because that's going to make the mid-range sound very muddled. So I'm going to set this low pass crossover to the middle. Now we can fine tune this a little bit more later on. Now with the bass boost, the range is from 0 dB to plus 12 dB. To start off, I'm going to set this to the middle, which is 6 dB. This way later on you can increase or decrease this if you want. For the gain setting, right now it's at minimum. On the bass knob, set it to maximum. On your car radio, go to settings, sound, and make sure your bass, mid, and treble is all flat. And also your balance fade is in the middle. Bass enhancer on this car, you can leave it on. And the speed sensitive volume, turn this off. What you want to do is listen to a variety of songs that you're familiar with and you know what it should sound like. And set the volume to 75%. And the reason you don't want maximum volume is because most factory systems, at that high of a volume, you will have distortion in the sound. And while listening to the audio, you can increase the gain until you start hearing distortion. At that point, you want to back off a little bit. You can also increase the low pass crossover frequency if you find that the cutoff for the low frequency is too low. You can also increase the bass boost if you need more bass. Once you have it set the way you like it, you shouldn't need to change the settings here anymore. You can adjust the sound using the control on the radio and also the bass knob. On the bass knob there is a blue LED. That blue LED will turn on so you know when the amplifier is on. So let's have a listen at the sound system. Now you're hearing this at home. It's really hard to hear the low frequency coming out from the subwoofer. I can tell you for a small unit like this, it definitely adds more low-end bass to the music. So if you own this generation of Nissan Rogue and you're thinking of adding a subwoofer system to your vehicle, I hope you found this video to be helpful. For a list of parts and tools used in this video, check out the links below. If you have any questions or comments, leave one in the comment section. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this video. To support this channel, remember to click on thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the notification bell so you get notified of new videos.